Good evening. Welcome to This Week in Turkey. Following the alleged chemical attack in Syria, the global tension is escalating. While the global actors are discussing on a possible military strike in Syria, Turkey is following the developments.
The global tension is escalating after the chemical crisis in Syria. Early in the week, the US President Donald Trump tweeted that the missiles will be coming to Syria. Russia vows to shoot down any and all missiles fired at Syria. Get ready, Russia, because they will be coming, nice and new and smart. You shouldn't be partners with a gas-killing animal who kills his people and enjoys it, the US president said. However, Trump later stated that he is yet to make a final decision on a potential military strike on Syria in the wake of a suspected chemical attack that killed dozens of people. President Trump also spoke with his British and French counterparts Thursday evening regarding a possible military response. Both French and British officials declared their support for a possible military action in Syria. French President Emmanuel Macron stated that his country has proof that chemical weapons were used by the Syrian regime against rebels in Douma. However, the US Defense Secretary Jim Mattis told the reporters that he believes there was a chemical weapons attack in Syria, but admitted that the US government is still looking for the actual evidence. Meanwhile, both Italy and German government officials announced that, despite their tremendous unity with allies on Syria, they would not join a possible military strike. Russia Foreign Ministry, who is seeking to avoid a possible military action, claimed that the attack was staged with the help of an unspecified foreign intelligence agency. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan discussed the issue with his Russian and US counterparts. Those who committed this massacre will definitely pay a heavy price. I curse those who committed this massacre, Erdogan said. President Erdogan told the leaders that Syria should not be an arm wrestling arena for outside powers, also pointing out that we don't have any intention to give up our alliance with the US or our strategic relationship with Russia that we have formed in a broad area from energy to security or working together with Iran to solve regional problems. A fact-finding mission from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons is expected to head to Douma on Saturday to hold an investigation for the attack.
And now, joining us from Tunisia to talk about the Syrian chemical crisis and its impact on Turkey is Ömer Taşpınar. Mr. Taşpınar is a foreign policy expert at Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C. Mr. Taşpınar, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. The connection is not very good, but I can hear you.
Thank you. Mr. Taşpınar, I recall that the Trump administration conducted a strike in Syria in 2017. But that was quite a limited and punitive strike. Right now, there are heavy debates within the United Nations Security Council, and we can see that the atmosphere is different in Washington, D.C. Yet, Mr. Trump says that he is yet to decide on what to do. What are the options for Washington?
Well, the first option, I think, is to engage in a limited strike. And that appears to be right now the most realistic option for the Trump administration, given the fact that Mr. Trump, the president, has already indicated in a tweet that he wants to pursue that direction. Another option is not to do anything, and because there's a risk that the Russian government, the Russian military, could retaliate for any kind of strike. So that would be also probably the more cautious road. But at that day, I think the Trump administration has cornered itself by saying that there will have to be a price, and this is kind of a red line that the Trump administration has established. So if you were to ask me, I would say probably in the next few days there will have to be military action, but this will be a limited military action without any kind of escalation, with the hope that it's not going to be escalated by the Russians.
So should we expect something like 2017?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So should we be waiting something like 2017?
Yes, something similar to 2017, with the hope that somehow the Russians will not escalate. This time, the difference from 2017 is that the risk of an escalation with Russia is much more real.
Within the United Nations Security Council, there have been heavy debates, and Russia today, for example, claimed that it was the UK that staged the chemical attack. But the United States and the Western Bloc heavily criticizes Russia as well. But yesterday, General Mattis stated that the US is still looking for chemical evidence on the ground. What is the current situation? How do you see it?
Well, I think the United States is trying to be sure from all elements of intelligence that indeed what was used was chemical weapons. I think there's already clear evidence in the eyes of European governments, especially the French. However, the Trump administration has waited a long time, and they could prolong this for a couple more days with the hope that somehow maybe there will be some pressure building up, and they could try to do this in a multilateral way. If they can portray this as a multilateral European and American strike with French involvement and British support, that would be probably better in terms of avoiding a Russian response. So I think the waiting period in terms of being sure of the chemical weapons use in intelligence may be related to more multilateralism that the United States would like to have in striking a few places in Syria. Despite the limited nature of the strike, it would be better to do it multilaterally.
If we turn our attention to Turkey, we see that Turkey is trying to hold a balanced position. On the one hand, we know that Turkey's position against the Assad regime, but on the other hand, we know that Turkey is engaged within a relationship with Russia and Iran. Are we at a breaking point for that? Does Turkey have to make a decision right now?
Well, I think this is the case, yes. Turkey has cornered itself and in a position that it doesn't want to be in. It has to pick between its American NATO ally and Russia on this one. Turkey ideally wanted the United States to pick between the Kurdish allies on the ground and Turkey, and it was pressuring Washington to pick a side on the fight against ISIL between itself and the Kurds. Instead, the tables have turned now, and it is Turkey that seems to be in a bind in terms of having to choose between the United States, in case of a strike, or Russia. And this will be a very, very important moment testing Turkey's ties with the West, Turkey's ties with the United States. In case Turkey decides to condemn the American action and support any kind of Russian retaliation, this could spell a new crisis in Turkish-American relations.
One final question. From your opinion, how will this unfold for Turkey?
Well, I think Turkey will be lucky if the Trump administration decides not to strike. If there's a delay, I think any kind of hasty action from the American side will push Turkey to make a decision. So I think the best course for Turkey right now is to try to stay neutral, to try to say that it doesn't support a American strike and it doesn't support the Russian position. But I'm afraid that this is too late, that Turkey has cornered itself into a corner, and that eventually it will have to pick a side, because the United States, in case of a strike, will have to really convince Turkey that it has to support Turkey. And if the Russians retaliate, Turkey will have a bigger problem on its hands, because then we could be facing an American-Russian escalation in Syria. This is the last thing that Turkey needs at this time.
Mr. Taşpınar, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. According to the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, Israel has been secretly buying oil from the Kurdish-controlled northern Iraq.
According to a report by Haaretz, Israel have been secretly buying oil from the Kurdish-controlled northern Iraq through the Turkish port of Ceyhan. Haaretz reported that Samir Madani, a Kuwaiti oil trader, noticed an oil tanker named Valtamed heading to the Suez Canal from Turkey's port of Ceyhan in November 2017. The tanker reportedly stopped outside Israel's territorial borders in the eastern Mediterranean, turned off its identification transponder, and when it resurfaced a few days later, it was mysteriously lighter than when it had left Ceyhan. The vessel then sailed to Cyprus and returned to Turkey, loaded up on oil that had come from northern Iraq, and repeated the journey, including the act of disappearing. Samir Madani's conclusion was that the Valtamed had been shipping oil that wasn't recorded anywhere to a country that wasn't supposed to buy it. In other words, Israel was secretly buying Kurdish oil through Turkey. Haaretz also reported another similar incident, quoting the website tankertrackers.com, of which Madani is the co-founder.
After last week's FETÖ operation in Kosovo, this week it's been revealed that 3 more FETÖ members have been brought to Ankara from Gabon.
Turkey's National Intelligence Organization, MIT, has brought 3 members of the Fethullahist terrorist organization FETÖ from the Central African country Gabon to the Turkish capital Ankara on Tuesday. Osman Özpınar, İbrahim Akbaş, and Adnan Demirönal, who are believed to be senior members of FETÖ, were detained by Gabon's security forces on March 23rd and transferred from Gabon's capital Libreville to Ankara by the MIT on a private jet. A court in the Turkish capital Ankara and a district court in the central Anatolian province of Konya have issued arrest warrants for Özpınar, the principal of the Gabon Turkish International School and the director of the Light Academy in Kenya. Warrants have also been issued for Akbaş and Demirönal, former managers of the École Privée Internationale Turco-Gabon. Akbaş was reportedly in charge of money transactions between FETÖ members in Europe and Africa. It was also reported that all 3 suspects were users of Bylock, an encrypted mobile phone application used by FETÖ members to communicate during and after the 2016 coup attempt.
Following the Syria-oriented geopolitical risks and the macroeconomic imbalances, the Turkish lira once again depreciated to its record low values.
The Turkish lira has once again weakened to another record low against the dollar and the euro as investor concerns about an overheating economy and geopolitical risks mounted. On Wednesday, Turkey's currency traded as weak as 4.19 to the dollar from Tuesday's close of 4.11. The fall came after President Trump said the US planned to take military action in Syria, warning Russia, a supporter of the Assad regime, to get ready, while investors were already concerned about Turkey's economy. Turkish Prime Minister Binali Yıldırım slowed the depreciation of the Turkish lira after telling the reporters that the exchange rate is monetary policy. Who has responsibility for this? The central bank. The central bank is in charge of the agenda. When it's necessary, it has taken the necessary measures and it will take them again in future. However, the Turkish currency has been under pressure since early March after Moody's cut Turkey's rating with a special emphasis on the country's widening current account gap. Another concern among investors is the country's high inflation rate, which persistently stands at over 10%, and an escalation in geopolitical risks. Despite signs that the Turkish economy is overheating, with inflation running at about 10%, President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, as recently as this week, renewed his vow to pursue strong growth regardless of the cost. Yet, according to the Financial Times, the high current account deficit, combined with rapid inflation, bears echoes of other lira depreciation spirals, analysts argue. The Turkish lira is currently traded at 4.07 to the dollar. Turkey's central bank is due to make a rate decision in 2 weeks, something that will probably garner close attention from traders, with the currency already down 8.1% this year.
It has been reported that several big Turkish companies have entered into the talks for debt restructuring.
While the Turkish bank stocks are underperforming stock index by 20%, media sources reported that large companies seek to restructure their bank loans. Early in the week, billionaire Ferit Şahenk's Doğuş Holding reportedly started talks with banks on debt restructuring. Doğuş's current outstanding loans stood at 23.5 billion Turkish liras at the end of 2017, up 11% from the year before, including loans worth 7.5 billion lira maturing this year. According to the company's financial statements, the majority of the loans have maturities varying from 2020 to 2030. Reuters reported that Doğuş asked for a maturity extension on less than half of its bank debt. According to company sources, Doğuş has the ability to pay, and the maturity extension of a few years would ease the burden on the company. However, Doğuş is not the only company that is demanding a debt restructure. Business HT reported that the joint venture of Ansaldo Energia and Ünal Aysal's unit investment NV is also seeking a debt restructure on loans amounting to $700 million. It has been reported that the company is having payment troubles due to the volatile currency rates. Previously, Oger Telecom, the majority shareholder in Türk Telekom, failed to pay its $4.4 billion debt, and Yıldız Holding, the owner of Godiva, demanded a debt restructuring. While their average NPL ratio is an enviable 2.92%, Turkish banks have been extensively restructuring loans amid market turmoil that's hammered the lira, making it more difficult for companies to repay an accumulated dollar and euro debt pile, now equivalent to about 40% of gross domestic product. According to PA Intelligence, more companies are requesting loan restructuring from the banks.
The Privatization Administration of Turkey has conducted separate auctions to corporatize 2 sugar factories. The privatization comes after intense political debates.
The Privatization Administration of Turkey has conducted separate auctions to corporatize 2 sugar factories amid controversy over the move. Yozgat and Çorum, the 2 factories of the Turkish Sugar Refineries Corporation, were up for auction. Safi Holding offered the highest bid, 528 million Turkish liras, for the Çorum Sugar Factory, whose tender started from 441 million liras, as reported by state-run Anadolu Agency on April 9th. The auction for the Yozgat Sugar Factory started from 244 million liras, and it received bids up to 275 million liras from Doğuş Food Beverage. 14 factories, Afyon, Erzurum, Alpullu, Ilgın, Bor, Kastamonu, Burdur, Kırşehir, Çorum, Muş, Elbistan, Turhal, Erzincan and Yozgat are on the list to be auctioned. Last week, auctions for the Bor and Kırşehir sugar factories were held, and they were sold for 336 million liras and 330 million liras respectively.
The 37th Istanbul Film Festival enters its 2nd week. The festival will continue until April 17th.
The 37th Istanbul Film Festival continues at full steam. The festival runs from the 6th until the 17th of April at 9 different movie theaters, screening 210 films from 43 countries and by 218 different directors. The 12-day festival also hosts many events including discussions, exhibitions, and concerts. Yesterday, the documentary film Black, Not Grey, Ankara Rocks from the section Musicians was screened at Beyoğlu Sineması with the participation of the director Ufuk Önen and the film crew. In the evening, the rock and metal scenes of Ankara were at the Salon İKSV stage in honor of the film and Ankara itself. Tomorrow, PVO will be giving a talk where he will share the milestones of his music career together with composer and saxophone player Korhan Futacı, who's also known to compose soundtracks for films. The talk will take place at 4 p.m. at Yapı Kredi Kültür Sanat. Having composed more than 100 pieces with his partner, Aldo Descalzi, PVO is, no doubt, a true musician in every sense of the word. He was awarded for the soundtrack of the film Love and Bullets at the Venice Film Festival and is among the jury of the Istanbul Film Festival's international competition. On Sunday, Iranian-born artist and filmmaker Shirin Nesat will be giving a talk at 2 p.m. at Yapı Kredi Kültür Sanat. Nesat, who is also on the jury of the Human Rights in Cinema category of the festival, will be sharing her thoughts and experiences on photography, visual art, and cinema. In 2009, she directed her first feature-length film, Women Without Men, which received the Silver Lion for Best Director at the Venice Film Festival. Her second feature film, Looking for Oğum Kultum, was screened yesterday at Atlas Sineması with Nesat's attendance. You can also visit 2 exhibitions linked to the festival program. Photographer Muhsin Akgün has captured the portraits of new generation actors and actresses taking part in the films in the national competition and out-of-competition sections of the festival program. The Festival Stüdyosu exhibition is on at Galeri Işık in Nişantaşı. Mediha Didem Türemen's solo exhibition Myths is taking place within the frame of the centenary celebrations of Ingmar Bergman's birth. Noting, with respect to Bergman, the exhibition is organized with the cooperation of the Bergman Foundation, Adahan Istanbul, and Mixer Gallery.
That's all from This Week in Turkey. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you again next Friday. Goodbye.